What is up, team? And thank you guys for clicking on this video. And boy, let me tell you, it's a great episode. But I want to give you guys a heads up, okay? Now, there's going to be a small window of this episode where for about 4 minutes, the screen just kind of goes blank. But the episode still carries on, the audio, everything's still going to carry on, everything's still going to flow. Unfortunately, guys, I'm still learning this whole editing and everything, and we had some technical difficulties, but I didn't want to compromise the integrity of the episode, so I went ahead and just go ahead and release it. I didn't want to cut it out. It is a great episode, guys. My buddy Bilal, he's a fascinating dude with a fascinating story, you know, coming from Pakistan, coming to America, and just kind of embarking and just diving into this journey, you know. So I don't want to waste too much of your time. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you all for the support and love. And now let's get on with the episode. What is up, everybody? And welcome back to another episode of the Comfort and Chaos podcast with, of course, yours truly. Thank you for being present. Thank you for clicking. If you haven't already, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button as we continue on to find this journey of comfort in our chaos in this uncommon world. But today is a special episode, team. As you know, we here at Comfort and Chaos always dive into special topics to help you find that comfort in chaos in this uncommon world. We also like to dive into special guests, special individuals who have a special story and learn something about themselves and how they deal with the comfort and chaos and just get through the day-to-day in life, just like you and I do. They're not some big wig private jet owner, but they can actually relate to you and I who are out there on that tower of success and production. And that's what we're about here, team. That being said, we got a special guest here. I'm going to introduce you. His name is Zia. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you for having me.
So first off, tell the team though, they're BF. What does that mean?
Well, my name is actually Bilal Faisal Zia. Very quickly, I observed that may not be the easiest thing to pronounce. So my name is Bilal, B-I-L-A-L. I was like, let me just shorten it to Bill.
Hey, Bill.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty cool. I can imagine meeting you and just like, hey, what's your name? Bill.
I just trimmed the last two alphabets. I rolled with that for a bit, but one thing, people started calling me Billy. That happened in a casual setting at school, but I wasn't like too keen on that. And second thing was like people started calling me William.
William? Oh yeah, because
William happened more often than Billy.
So it was just easier to be like, hey, just call me BF.
I just went down to the initials.
Yeah. That's actually smart because in your line of work, it's also a good conversation starter. Because you meet somebody, you want to know, hey, what does BF stand for? Like, hey, that's pretty cool. BF, nice to meet you. What does BF stand for now? So now they're more in tune with you.
And
you know?
Professionally, like when we met, I was a digital marketer. So I was like, I'm your best friend in digital marketing.
Yeah, I remember that. I do remember those days. Man, what a pleasure. Well, thanks for joining. Thanks for being here. Now, we want to dive into this. So introduce, like basically, obviously we got your name out of the way, but what brings a gentleman like you to Texas? Much less like, what is your, obviously a lot of viewers will probably want to know, where's that accent from? You know, where'd you come from? Where have you been? And what are you trying to do? Tell us.
What a question.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. Welcome to Comfort and Chaos.
I guess I'm definitely trying to find comfort out of the chaos.
Ooh, aren't we all? Aren't we all?
So I've been in Texas for over a decade. My ethnicity is Pakistani. I immigrated to the United States more or less 15, 16 years ago. Let's not get into the math of it. I think it was like 2007, 8. I don't remember exactly. It's been a long time. And I was actually thinking about this because, you know, I was like, you gave me an idea of what's going to happen in the podcast. So I was thinking about it. And
hell yeah, man.
So what the hell am I doing here? I asked myself that question a fair bit, you know, been in San Antonio alone for over
13 years and you came, so you were born in Pakistan?
I was born in Pakistan. I was born in 1987. So I lived there for over 20 years before I came here.
What was that like growing up in Pakistan? Because there's a lot of people who don't know. They only know what's put in the media and how it's right there next to Afghanistan and all of this stuff. But no one really knows, like, hey, What was it like growing up there?
What is it like growing up? You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's just like as a Pakistani, right? As
Mhm.
somebody who's growing up, that is like the most interesting thing because it's almost the same. You know, you grow up, right,
Mhm.
as somebody who belongs to an individual country. You to participate. What literally connects you to a land? I think the most often thing would be the Independence Day. Like you have 4th of July here, we had
Yeah.
14th August. And that's where you really, get a feel for it because you're surrounded by people who celebrate the same thing and it
Mhm.
creates a sense of community. It's literally the same thing, just with a different flag. Perspective starts to shift when you no longer belong to just one place. Growing up as an individual is the same. You have good things and bad things that you don't even realize are bad. For
Very
example,
true.
if you're from New York, you don't know how shitty the traffic is over there. When you come here, you realize that roads can be wide open. But at the
Yep.
same time, the good in New York is that you don't need a car half the time. You can board
That's
a
very
train or
true.
a bus and get wherever you need to. And then when you come to Texas, you're like, where the hell is the station?
Yeah. Where's the buses? Where's the subway?
So growing up, you don't know like anything.
Is there good public transportation set up there in Pakistan as well?
See, that's a trick question because it's like America. Is there good public transportation in America or is there good public transportation in New York? I think for the most part, given that it is British colony and stuff, more recent British colony, America got their independence in 1776. Pakistan had their independence in 1947.
Really? I didn't know that.
They were countries that got
So
their...
right after World War II.
Yeah. Although I don't think World War II played a very big role in their independence.
So
Now-
expand on that. What do you mean by within?
So in America, I'm not saying that each state and each city is not different, but you have the same Best Buy, the Walmart, the Target,
Yeah.
GameStop,
At every
Barnes
city.
and Noble. There's a lot of homogeny that ties it together. Corporate America has helped give this country a sense of universal branding. Pakistan has not achieved that yet. So not only is each state aesthetically different and commercially different, the language is also different. Just because you're from New York, I'm from Karachi, which is the Pakistan equivalent of New York, that doesn't mean that every other state would speak the same language. Like, you're familiar with Afghanistan, right?
Yes.
The city or the state or province, as Pakistan calls them, that borders Afghanistan, they speak Pashto.
Really?
It's actually a bit of a challenge to find somebody who speaks
So Pashto, is it spoken to in Pakistan as well?
in the border.
It's just at the border.
The whole province, whole
Okay.
state would prefer to speak in Pashto over English or Pakistan's native language, which is Urdu. They are taught that as part of a national curriculum. There is a national language for the country that everybody is taught. But, like if you go to South Texas, Spanish will take front seat.
Yeah. Very true.
And if you go in Louisiana, it's diminished now, but French was a big thing
Yeah.
back
Some
in the
people
day.
can speak French. Yeah.
So that's what I meant with diversity, that you see a lot more of that. I grew up around 9/11, 2001.
Oh, yeah.
So at that point, tourism was at the lowest in the country. It's picked up again now.
So Pakistan has a big tourism market.
It does now, but
Okay.
around the time I was growing, the international diversity was quite less. When I first immigrated to the US, when I got a job, I was working with people from Sri Lanka. I was working with neighbors from India. And I didn't even know India had like so much diversity because the Pakistan national language Urdu and India's national language Hindi, it is
Mhm.
phonetically the same. Like the scripture is different, the font is different, but more or less it's compatible. But then I discovered half the Indians in America are from South India who do not speak the national Indian language. So,
It's funny because I always tell people we live in such a big world that people don't realize. And sometimes it would benefit the human being, especially here in America. Sometimes we get so bogged down in these little comfort zones and we get our social media and our screens and we're just swiping and all of a sudden we get attached to everything on that screen. And we start to forget that there is a huge world out there with so many different livelihoods, so many stories, so many different ways of life, that life isn't just about what you're doing here. Like, that's not how the rest of the world functions. It just blows my mind. But that's why I love talking to gentlemen like you, when people like you who have a whole different experience that you bring here and you're able to educate and live a whole lifestyle, but you have a different interpretation of it. For me, I grew up in this country, but it took me to travel for my job and travel different countries and learn different cultures, different ways of life, and just observe and learn. I love this. I want to learn this. And then I come back here and it's just so hard for me to pull up my screen and just see all this emotion and stuff. Hey, trust me, there's bigger stuff in life to worry about. Let that screen just ruin your day. There are 4-year-olds out there working a job to support a family.
Where are you seeing 4?
I've seen it, man. I've seen it. I've seen it. I never forget when I see stuff like that, because that kind of stuff always speaks to me. When you see a full-on family effort to support the family. Here, you get kids getting dropped off at daycare. Other countries, man, you see kids out there, they're getting dropped off at work.
Wow, that's
at a young age. We definitely got it good here. People got it good here. And sometimes they need to know that, But so Pakistan, man. So you grew up there. Did you ever go into like the military service there or law enforcement, or it is in that country, is it required? Like in Korea and other countries, they require you to do 2 years in the military service. I didn't know if Pakistan was the same way. What made you decide to come over here and explore a whole new opportunity and a way of life? It would be tough for somebody that is your country, that's your home, and to go and explore a whole new way of life. That's a big decision, but obviously that's one that's proven to be very successful for you. You're doing really well. And I would love to hear the story on that.
Yeah.
If you're willing.
No, I'm definitely willing.
I could only imagine that journey too, by the way.
Let's start with you, because I'm equally curious, right?
Ooh, fill me in.
Let's start with 18. You finish high school, right?
Yes, right.
So 18, just same as you, I'm enrolled in a school, no responsibility. At least I hope your life was similar to that.
I'll tell you, I grew up very sheltered. I went to a private school, and when I left the house and went to college, it was like a whole new world. It was like if you had never been to Vegas and I took you to Vegas for the first time in your life, and you're just like, what is this place? You walk into a casino, they're handing you drinks, they're doing this, and you're just like, what is this? Oh my gosh, it tastes good. I feel like that's what college was for me.
Did you choose your own college?
Yes, I did choose my own college. I had a scholarship. It wasn't anything big. I wasn't smart. I was just a jock. I was a B student across the board. So I didn't compete with those who got really good scholarships. It was like a lottery scholarship. So it's kind of like, hey, here you go. Good luck.
So what did you study?
So I went in and originally I studied, my major was accounting and finance.
And where did you go?
New Mexico State University.
And are you from New Mexico?
Yes, born and raised.
So you spent 18 years in New Mexico and you decided that your university will also be in New Mexico.
Yep. A very small town. I call it a very town of comfort. It's a very comfortable town because I can go back now and I'll still see some of the same kids I grew up with, people, and they're just doing the same stuff they were doing.
How does that make you feel?
It's one of those things that sticks out to me because I don't feel bad, but at the same time, I'm also concerned because you have so much potential. You have a whole world of opportunities, but you're holding yourself in this little circle because it's comfortable and convenient. Anywhere outside the circle, you have to take risks. Now you don't know. You got to plan your days, your meals, your money. You got to plan in order to pursue a new dream or a new goal, But when you're in this little comfort circle and you're going in circles, it's convenient. Hey, do this Monday through Friday. I'm good.
So you think they're almost not living life to the fullest?
No, it's just more of like, I see it as like, I use my siblings. I'm the oldest of 6 and I got all my siblings and I love them to heart. And every single one has the potential. They have the mind, they have the potential. And we live in a world now where if you want to go do something, it literally starts with a choice. Make the choice. And then the next step is apply yourself. Apply that discipline, apply that accountability, put in that energy, put in that effort, and go get it. If you fail, you're going to learn. You can learn from failure, but you can't learn from quitting. You quit on something, you can't learn. By not choosing to do something, that's a form of quitting. I quit that idea. I had an idea and I quit it.
Well said. Well said.
When I look back, that's really what it is. I don't hate on them. If they're happy and living their life, then that's all that matters. Go for it. Do that. But just understand you have that potential. It's inside you. The world is so big. There are opportunities. Literally, you can sit down, pull out a notepad and write down every kind of opportunity you have. You can make a list of maybe top 5 opportunities of what you want to do. Just start off with goals. What do you want to do? And then you can line up each one of those goals to an opportunity that you can line yourself up to. And then be like, okay, now what are you going to do about that? Are you just going to leave it on the piece of paper or are you going to go pursue it?
Okay, so let's see how these paths go. So 18, just like you stayed, I was from a big city, very big city. But I was in school as sheltered as possible and very comfortable. What I wanted to study was psychology. I wanted to grow up to be a psychologist.
Oh, wow. You got good psychologist vibes.
Thank you.
No, you do. I feel like I just want to lay out a couch right now and be like, yeah, hey, man, so this is how I grew up.
Yeah, and we're going to do that. Let's see how much parallel, even though we're geographically divided, let's see how much parallels we can pull.
Ooh.
I enrolled in a semi-private university called Bharia University, which was funded by the Navy.
Ooh, okay.
While I was pursuing it, I had a lot of officers come to me. Oh, you would make a really good soldier.
I could see that too. You're very smart. Yeah.
But military in Pakistan does not have the best reputation like over here where you have reverence for serving your country. Pakistan does not share that. We've had 2, if not more, coups where the military has actually put the country under martial law and taken over.
Really?
There are people for it and against it, because America is the pillar of democracy.
Did you live through one of those coups?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. What was that like?
The coup in my lifetime happened in the year 2000 where we were actively at war. And we have a disputed territory with India. Man, I'm not much of a war and military guy, but
I've heard there's a big thing at the border, right? India and Pakistan right there. There's a big, the 2 guards are literally face to face with each other.
And that's a Korea thing.
I've seen and they also demonstrate some kind of presentation or something like that.
I think there is a show at one of the borders.
So are Indians well liked in Pakistan? Do they go over and do business there? And vice versa. I'm sure Pakistanis also go into India and do business.
It's a little hard, but when we have proper democracy, I suppose relationship with India thrives quite a bit. But that's a more macro topic. I'm gonna
okay. No, I didn't mean to do that, dude.
No, but to your question, coup happened around 2000 where the military came into so basically there was some American intervention where they were like, let's just end this war quickly. The prime minister, equivalent of a president, he was touring US. He got the word from Clinton or whatever. Maybe it was 99 because Clinton was out of office by 2000, right?
Yeah, it was George W. Bush at that time.
So it was Clinton. So it was 99, not 2000. He wasn't particularly happy with the order to end the war.
Oh, really?
So he was like, yeah, I'm going to take over the country. So he put the prime minister in prison and took over the country. And somehow he forgot about the war. So what was the point of taking over the country?
Yeah.
So because the military got more concerned with what was happening inside the country rather than on the borders. I think it was a great time. The country thrived quite a bit. There was a clampdown on corruption and stuff like that.
So who took charge of the country at that time then?
The military.
It was the military?
Yeah,
so a general, I'm assuming? Or
Yeah, General Musharraf.
Oh, okay.
He was pretty big in the US back in the day, went to the Daily Show and everything.
What? That's actually pretty crazy. Now I want to look this up.
Yeah, he was on after we got democracy, he was actually on a tour in the US selling his book. Visited 100 universities.
Did he get himself an agent? He probably got himself an agent.
I wouldn't know. My personal experience was that all the channels on TV had the color correct screen with the color bars and everything, and all the channels were off. So I was like, can't I watch my cartoons? People were like, oh, but you don't know. You go back to school the next day, you don't care. On a personal level, it didn't matter too much.
That's pretty crazy. I don't think anybody, at least any of my viewers, probably know what it's like to live in a country where there's a coup or the reality of a coup.
Yeah, we've had multiple coups. It's
That,
like every
yeah.
20 years or something.
And other countries, same thing. You never know when they're going to pop up. And all of a sudden, boom, they pop up. And you're just like, oh, shoot. Now your whole day changed. Your whole routine changed.
Yeah.
You know, that's a reality.
So yeah, but like I said, that was all in the macro, didn't really interfere with my life
Okay.
day to day. Even like something like 9/11, it didn't interfere with like on a micro level individually. But as the years went on, you started to realize something's changing in the country, especially because you're growing up, right? I was like 13 in 2000 or 14 in 2001.
You're just a young man, little boy.
My biggest concern with 9/11 was there was a video game I was really looking forward. It was called Propeller Arena. It was going to be the first dog fighting game, and Sega
canceled it
on Dreamcast. Yeah.
Oh, Dreamcast. Oh man, you had a Dreamcast?
I have a Dreamcast.
Hey, does it still work?
Yeah, of course.
You need to save that sucker.
I have 7. I have a Sega Dreamcast. I have a Sega Saturn. I have my Genesis.
Dude, that is cool, man.
So
you don't see those anymore. You might as well hold on to those. That's going to be worth some money soon.
I intend to. As I grew up, graduated high school, I pursued a career. And all this time, right, in this trajectory, I did not visualize my life outside of the US. The first time I left my country was like 2004. Like till from 1987 till 2000. And I like even then my parents were like, hey, you need to go see the world. Like, why? I have a TV. I watch Friends.
Your mom's probably like, you gotta get out of
the house. You really get out of the country and see the world.
That's actually pretty cool, man. That your parents support that. That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, they had to drag me here. Even when we got the immigration done, I had a trajectory and a plan that did not involve immigration. Like I said, you don't realize bad till you see bad from the outside. Like I live in the desert, more or less. It's a coastal city. So a country like Pakistan, which is helping the US.
Yes, sir.
So you don't know what's happening, and nor do an apolitical person like myself have concern with it. But we are having infrastructure problems, right? Resources are being diverted. Sometimes water is not coming, and there's a whole process. Like you have the water infrastructure, but sometimes you don't have water. So you got to get a truck. All houses in Pakistan have underground water tanks. So you can get a private truck to fill your tank and you're good for a week or two.
Wow.
So when the water in the main was not coming, you would have to go get a tank, and the tank water would get more expensive. Like we've observed in COVID, where Walmart, HEB did not have stuff on the shelves. Stuff like that was gradually getting worse. But if you're just coping with it, in the moment, like a house, right? One light bulb dies, fan gets noisy, doors start creaking. If it's just gradually disintegrating, you don't realize it. But then when you go to another country, it could be England, America, South Africa, all countries I've traveled to, then you're like, does my life suck?
No, I call that part of your journey. Your upbringing is part of your journey. I'm pretty sure now you live your life very appreciative of the simplest things that people take for granted because of that.
Absolutely.
I know just from me and some of my travels, I've learned, I'm very appreciative. Just the simple fact that you have running water and hot water. You're like, wow. AC, wow. People are like, oh yeah, that's normal. I'm like, nah, the rest of the world's not normal. That's actually a pretty precious commodity.
Right. So I did not know, like, come late 2000s, right? The trajectory of my life did not involve psychology or anything. Just like you're graduating with a degree in accounts and finance. What happens next?
Oh, man. So that was the plan.
Exactly.
But for me, it was like I got introduced to a world of just freedom at the most ultimate level. It was a freedom of just like alcohol. That's my first time I ever tried alcohol. I experienced the whole party lifestyle. I fell into a group that was just like very like embracing that and really exploiting it, and it was so new to me. And I was just there like taking it in. And it was a way of, because I was so sheltered, that it was a way that I can feel accepted, and because of that, I just fell into that. I changed my major like 3 different times, man. And now I finalized with my major being in history and general arts and studies, but it was with the primary going more towards general studies of history, and it was one of those things where it was just like, okay, but I was literally going through the days of, there was never really a focus. I didn't have that discipline. I lacked the personal accountability. And I made a decision. I had a buddy of mine who joined the military, and he ended up passing away in Afghanistan. I took that really to heart. Most people in my town, it was like a thing, but it wasn't really a big thing to join the military.
So this is like was it like a brother in arms?
No, just a childhood friend.
So he enlisted before you?
Yeah, he enlisted before me.
And that was the aha moment?
Yes. I did the whole college route. He went the military route. And he would come back on leave and I would hear all these stories. I was always the one that was just very like, dude, tell me more. Everyone else was just like, whatever. And I'm just like, dude, tell me more. Then we got word later on that he had passed away. And I took it to heart, dude. I definitely took it to heart. And I held on to that. And I had to do a little self-evaluation. And I said, you know what? I should have been there. I don't feel like I'm going anywhere right now. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm living every day to day and I have no goal. I admired him so much and I'm like, let me go talk to recruiters. Let me see what happens. I had no intentions. I'm just like, let me see what it's like. Let me see what they have to say. Next thing you know, my whole life just changed at that point. And I never looked back since, but I'm very thankful because I honestly tell people like, I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for me making that choice and signing on that dotted line.
What year was this?
This was in 2011, August 2011. Very recently. But no, man. And I never look back, but I'm very proud and honored. I just try to be an example. I enjoy life at this point now and just try to set case in point of just this whole platform. This is a hobby I'm passionate about, and having people like you share stories. I'm interested in that story. I think the world should be interested too, because it's a digital footprint. You can go back 10 years from now and hear your story. It's one of those things, man. And I just haven't looked back, but that's what led me in this path.
So did you enlist after graduating or?
No, I ended up, I was just strung out, no goals, no focal point whatsoever. And so I didn't really graduate. I basically dropped out and was just living my life to party on the weekends. And so then I was like, hey, you know what? Let me make this choice. Let me see what happens. Let me take a gamble.
So if you didn't sign on the dotted line, you could have ended up as Johnny Lawrence from Cobra Kai.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but who knows, man? I'd probably be in jail. I'd probably have DUIs and all kinds of stuff, Just the path, I will look back and be like, man, if I kept going on that path, who knows, man? I don't even like to really think about where I'd be because I'm not one of those that dwells in the past. I'd rather just learn from it and then move forward. But that's kind of like my story, man. And now I have an 11-year-old son that I just try to be like a straight example for and make sure that he doesn't, make decisions that I made, because the world is not getting any easier. It's even tougher now being a teenager now than it was when we were teenagers. It's a different world now.
So what was the first year like, 2011 to 2012?
First year was nervous. Everything was new. I never understood the concept of right place, right time, right uniform. Imagine you're told, be outside your house in this uniform at 4:00 in the morning. And you're like, wait, what? I'm a grown ass man. What are you telling me? I got to do this? Yeah, you got to do this. Those 3 basics right there, those fundamentals literally will just change your lifestyle, changes your livelihood, because going through basic training was tough because they got to mold you and break you from being a civilian into a soldier. They have to make sure you understand the words like accountability and discipline. You're going to check not only that and checking yourself, but you're checking your team. Because if one of them is messed up, then all you guys are messed up. that first year was basically all of that. I went through about 7 months of training. And after that, went to my first duty station. Everything was new to me. I didn't know anything. They just give you a folder. You just say, hey, you're going to Fort Riley, Kansas. I've never even been to Kansas in my life. I've never traveled outside of my state. What do I got to do? And there's like, you got to figure it out. Get there. Here you go. Here's the place. Here's the time. Be there. And you're just like, oh, shoot. Okay. And then I never looked back. I always found a mentor and I just chased that mentor. Hey, I want that job. Okay, I want that job. I want that job. I want to be a team leader. What do I got to do to be a team leader? Oh, you got to do this. You got to go to this school. You got to go to this training. Okay. Hey, what do I got to do to have my own crew? Okay. You want to be a crew chief? You want to be a TC? Okay. Here's what you got to do. Oh, you want to be a senior scout? Okay. Here's what you got to do. Oh, you want to be a first sergeant? Well, get ready. It's not going to be easy, but this is what you got to do to be a first sergeant. And that's where I'm at now. I'm very proud. We got to take pride in what we do. When you take pride in what you do, then you're going to line yourself up for success. If you don't take pride in what you do, how can you ever say you're going to be successful at it?
I hear you. So for me, sorry.
No, for you now. Yes, tell me.
So more or less, I graduate roughly around 2011. Like you, I was having a few screw ups on my portfolio. So I had to take some more classes to...
I like how you professionalize that. Screw ups on my portfolio. See that, guys? See how you did that? I just said, hey, straight up, dude, I was a fuck up. I just like to party. But he articulated, I had a few screw ups in my portfolio.
So I was committed to two things. And I knew it right off the bat. I was committed to psychology, mental health, and just communication and understanding people. It was something important to me, and I knew that I didn't know it. Like, most people are living in parallel lines. Our journey could be different, but our destination is the same. Both of us want the same thing: secure, home, basic stuff. So I had two options. My family had a business, so I could be the director of marketing for my dad's company. My minor was business. And I was like, but I want to try and make it on my own away from what my family has done. So I was like, let me push for psychology, but minor in marketing. So if psychology doesn't pan out, my career is secure. And in the meantime, I have the army knocking on my door. You would be a great inter-service selection officer. I was like, thank you. Around 2008 or something, or 2004 or 5, when I was like applying for a visa to visit the US, they were like, do you know that you're about to be an American? I was like, really?
Wow.
I have some families here that had already applied the paperwork. We had forgotten about it. And they were like, yeah, just make sure you don't overstay your visa because you don't want to jeopardize anything that could make you an American. I was like, I don't even want to go. So 2008, 2009, I get my papers. And I'm like, what the fuck? It's nice to buy games from GameStop or EB Games as it was back then, but I don't want to live there.
It's a whole different way of life.
My trajectory starts to get like derailed with like circumstances out because my family doesn't want to stay in my country anymore. And that was confusing and stuff. So I pushed it. I paid for the American immigration. Then I paid America again to not come to the US. I suspended the paperwork for 2 years just so that I could graduate.
Okay.
And that was, in hindsight, a big fuck up because if I was coming to the US with no American history, no bank accounts, nothing, I sort of qualify as poor. And I could have had a full FAFSA and a full rank for bachelor's.
What?
But I was like, I'm already on this trajectory and I was like, maybe I'm not a good student or something, So I was like, I don't want to do the SATs and all that bullshit. I just want to graduate. Biggest mistake of my life. Could have just come here, gone to community college, integrated, because I was also getting old and staying in my parents' house, and that was really weighing on me. So 2011, like, I couldn't push the US any further. And at that point, I was like, I'm done. So I was like, I'm moving out. And I moved to Dallas.
Wow, Dallas, Texas.
And I also really like stereotypes. Like, when people don't know, they call it stereotypes. Somebody with a psychology background, they call it archetypes.
Ooh, okay.
So guess what I did my first job? With a degree in psychology.
Oh,
guess
man.
Guess what I was looking forward to doing? My first professional full-time job.
Can I get... Okay, I'm going to guess, but don't be offended how I guess.
Okay.
A 7-Eleven.
Yeah. I was like, I'll do that thing. Apparently it's very, and
I literally just guessed it. I didn't mean anything by it.
No, I wanted to work there. I was like, yeah. So I did that, and I've never had a job in my life. Okay. And it might seem a little extra rich or luxurious, but I've never had to drive a car that I didn't want to. I always had a chauffeur drive me around.
That is crazy, dude.
Okay, so I come here and I was ready to leave. So I was just packing my clothes and leaving, but my mom gave me a blanket and a pillow as well. She was like, just take this with you. So like I had a friend, a high school friend, who's already leaving. He was like, yeah, come on, I'll set you up. I was like, really? You're going to give me a job at a 7-Eleven? He's like, yeah, literally. I was like, wow, I got a job. And like, I did that, like clean toilets, stocked fridge, I really liked it, really enjoyed it. It was good, hard-earned cash.
Was probably one of the best stores too, huh? It was a good 7-Eleven.
It was like fucking filthy. For me back then, I was like, yeah. But now when I went back, I was like, what kind of a shithole was I working in?
But dude, that's part of your journey, man.
Yeah.
Part of your journey.
I loved it. Yeah, one thing good, like you won't find that much in Pakistan or even like in a corporate role. But if it's like a smaller business, you wear more hats.
Oh, okay.
Like if you're working at, I don't know, I've never worked at Walmart, but if you're working at Walmart, you're probably staying at that cashier 8 hours.
Well, that's your spot.
Yeah. But at a 7-Eleven, I did everything.
You do everything.
I swept the floor outside, made sure the parking lot, the gas station was cleaned all the trash, went in, cleaned all the toilets, wiped them, cleaned the mirror. And so you got the sanitization work. But then I also stocked the fridge, did inventory, made sure what was in stock. I did ordering.
Oh yeah, you're basically the whole site manager.
Yeah, everything like write-offs, balancing the cash register. That was really rewarding. I was using different parts of my brain. I was doing customer service where I would engage, talk to people. I would be the accountant, make sure like cash in, cash out is correct, and make sure like the money needed for the next shift is arranged. And then there was sanitization, ordering. So I found that really dynamic. As I got relevant jobs, like as a real estate agent or as a digital marketer, you stay in your lane. I don't think I achieved as much diversity. Went forward.
Okay. What's funny is we just have a new gas station just opened up here in my neighborhood, and the dude, I always make a good conversation with the guy who works there. He's from Nepal and he just came to America and this is his first job. Every time I see him, he's always busy, always doing something. And I respect that work ethic. He's always asking how my day is. And I'm always like, hey man, how are you doing? How's life? I always do a little extra, have a little conversation. Everyone else, I just see people, they're just like, here, pay for this. And then they leave. I'm always like, hey dude. And I see him now and he smiles when I walk in. I'm always like, hey man, what's up? I shake his hand.
That's going really forward.
No, I do. I shake his hand. Hey, how you doing? And because I respect that journey. I respect that.
Yeah. And I don't, like a lot of people from South Asia, especially people who are maybe second generation Americans, they have a sort of disdain for that profession.
I don't know why, dude.
They were like some Harvard graduates or something that protested and got Abu canceled from The Simpsons.
No, you're absolutely right, man. That's like an American stigma. I just try not to be affiliated with that group. I respect everything. I had the upbringing where my father told me, hey, there's only two ways you're going to make it in this world. You either hit the books or you learn how to work. That's it. There's only two ways you're going to take care of your family. You either hit the books or you learn how to work. No one's going to hand you anything. Don't expect any handouts. So you got to learn that,
So when you in 2011 joined the military and me in 2012, when I came here, my paths sort of like, this is probably where our paths converge a little bit because I had structure. And now I don't. With a degree in psychology, I'm working at a convenience store. The year after that, I was like, okay, let me get back into psychology. Started pursuing a career in chemical dependency counseling. Drugs are everywhere. I guess there was comparatively less in my sheltered background. We had kids drinking in early high school. But me personally, I didn't have too much incentive in the chemical dependency courses. They were like, you gotta be an alcoholic to help people. Most of the batch I was in were either in recovery or had secondhand trauma from a cousin or a sister or brother, someone who they had seen all their life struggle with like alcohol or cocaine or some, substance. And they were like, you have zero experience in this. And so at first I was like, okay, challenge accepted. I'll show you how good of a counselor I can be without firsthand knowledge. But then one thing that we learned in psychology, even in Pakistan, the screw ups that I mentioned earlier was I started by working in a clinical setting in a rehabilitation center, which was basically an asylum with schizophrenics. Then I worked with children with disabilities.
Was that here in the U.S.?
No, this was back
in Pakistan.
My first time I went for my internship, the first 3 years or so in psychology, you're just studying from a book.
Yes.
It's only in your final years that you get in the field.
Okay.
And I didn't really resonate. I didn't like the institution that I was interning at. I cleared the class, but I didn't show up for the exam. I was like,
what did I sign up for?
No, like, what did I do? Like, I'm going through these books and I'm working with somebody with schizophrenia, and nothing in my education is able to bring value or improvement to this life. Yeah, I did a clinical intake, and I've filled out the chart. He still has schizophrenia. So I was a little disillusioned by it. Then I worked with mentally challenged children, and like the book told you that like you do this, the kid will perform that way. The kids were not performing that way.
Wow.
I was dealing with severe MR. Like you have a 12-year-old and you can't get him to put a square in a square and a circle in a circle. And I was like, I could have been patient, good, but I was a result-oriented man. If I'm investing my life, I needed to bring value.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
And same thing with like clinic. And in America, they were like upfront, you're probably not going to deliver much value. 95% of your clients will relapse. I was like, why would I do that?
That's true.
So that's why I took like a year off and cleaned gas stations.
Dude, hey, that's part of your journey right there.
And it was great.
Man.
The glass is clean. The floor is white, shiny.
I'm not surprised, man. I've met multiple people from different countries working at the simplest jobs here in the States. And then you get to know them and you're just like, you were a surgeon in your country? Like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And you're, wow. I just want to talk to you. Let me know when you get off. Let's go get a cup of coffee. Like, I want to know your story. Like, you were a surgeon and you're here working at a gas station. Wow. That's a good example right there, dude.
So I needed something more result oriented. So 2014, I was off with psychology. I was accredited. I could have completed my license. I can still do it. A lot of my friends, now my skills are pretty weak because I haven't opened the DSM in like 6 years or so. But like up until like 2018, 2019, I could help a professional diagnose better. Like you just ran your notes through me. I could tell you where in the DSM they were.
You can probably diagnose me for something. That'd be a whole nother episode. So don't get your hopes up.
I pursued a career in marketing and gave it my all. But one of the hardest things for me is to relocate. And I guess the military really helps you with that because they just pluck you, drop you.
I mean, they kind of just force you. You're forced to.
Yeah.
I mean, even now that you go somewhere, be expected like 3 years from now, you're going to move. So have something ready, or have that in your, don't think you're going to be here forever because you're not.
Yeah. So like in order to pursue a better career in marketing, I would probably need to leave Texas or San Antonio at the very least, maybe Austin
Austin. I could see that.
But I was not interested. So I was like, what's the number one thing in Texas? The biggest industry. Everything's bigger in Texas and we have land.
That's right. Real estate.
I became a real estate agent. And that's where we met.
What a journey. So now you're in the real estate industry, correct? You obviously have an incredible backstory, that alone separates you. You probably even use that as your marketing, right? You have talents in psychology, marketing, and now real estate. I'm pretty sure you can apply those in your real estate industry, right? Now, what are you shooting for next? What's your aiming point? Let me ask you that. What is your short-term and long-term goal? Short-term being within this next year. Long-term, what's the next 3 years look like?
I would love to answer that. But first, I'm curious how our paths are going to align again, right?
So it's a psychologist right here, guys.
So we saw 2012, you got on a linear trajectory with clear-cut goals, fall in line and do this, or you're going to stay where you are. You're not going to grow, right? So you're on a very straight path. How does real estate blip on your radar? You know how it blipped on mine.
I'm one of those guys where I'm going to try to explore opportunities. when you identify that there is a market for opportunity, I'm going to dive into it. I want to understand it. I'll make a good assessment or I'll make a choice. At least now I have that experience. I'm just going to go into it and see. I'm going to shoot my shot. I may be successful or I may not be. If I fail, I fail, but at least I learned something. But I can't learn if I quit. So that's what I did. I just dived into that.
What attracted you though? With me, it was San Antonio, land. Everyone wants a house.
So when I got here, I can see there was a big boom. Houses were selling. Property was selling. That's where the market was, especially here in the state of Texas. So it was like, hey, you know what? I got to start thinking long-term. And when I do retire, because even when you're in the military, you can't wear the uniform forever. And eventually you're going to hang it up. But what are you going to do after that? Start thinking about your plan. And when you're in that last 5 years of your career, start thinking about what the plan is. Start testing the waters in different avenues. Start seeing where your passion, where it's something you can take pride in, And I've always been like, hey, you know what? I've been told that I'm really good at having conversations and building rapport with people, networking, establishing networks. And I'm like, the real estate market would be a good place for that, And I just said, okay, let me shoot my shot. I mean, I'll be just wasting time. It'll give me something to do after work. I mean, you saw I would come to class literally in uniform still, but that's just how committed I was. It's like, let me do this. And that's what led me down that path, because now that I'm familiar with it, I know that if I decide to, that's something I want to pursue. At least now I'm educated enough in the state of Texas to understand how it works, who to talk to, how to get certified. Okay, let's rock and roll, and let's live life. Let's be a team and conquer the world. Let's do it, But that's kind of what led me. Still, I got to own my role and responsibilities within my position now. And that takes priority because that's what I'm already embedded in. But it's definitely one that I want to set up a potential fallback. Let me establish a network with those gentlemen like you, where I know that, hey, 4 years from now, I send up my retirement packet, yada, yada, yada. Hey, you know what? I got a year of internship time. Hey, I'm going to hit up my man BF and be like, hey, dude, what do you have going on? What do I got to do? Be part of your team. Let's rock and roll, And it's just establishing that network and those friendships. And you're just like, all right, let's do it, man. But that is kind of what got me into that. Now, mind you, there's so many other things too I'm also looking into and pursuing as well.
Got a full-time job with the military. You got this podcast that he does twice a week.
That's right.
And the military is not a 40-hour job. It's not like punch in, punch out.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's not,
And then you throw real estate into the mix and there are other things. What are the other things?
Man, I just got other things that I'm looking into. There's always contracting, start my own construction business, There's just a lot of different things that just ideas. Like I've said before, you can make a list and prioritize what goals you want to hit, what opportunities you need to seek to meet those goals. And since I'm one of those kind of thinkers, that's literally what I would do. Make a little self-assessment. So I'm not wasting time. And that's kind of like how I live my life.
You said a whole lot of things, all good and valid things, having a fallback from the military, having future plans and life after the military, and just setting yourself up for success. But the thing that resonated with me where our paths converge or align, because we already converged earlier. But what does converge mean? I'm having a blank. If converge when you separate, diverge is separate, converge is the line. Okay.
Diverge is a good word. You're good with words.
Thank you. You're good with words too.
No, hell
I'm glad
no.
that we can both speak the same language. Like what you said, like retirement.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can help people find homes and I work in investments, so I can help people find investments as well. But ultimately, what you need is financial independence and security.
Mm-hmm.
And real estate can offer that to you. You can go about your job, but instead of paying rent, you're paying down a mortgage. As you wind down, you have accumulated equity.
Yeah.
You have wealth. So you could move into an apartment and rent out your house. But it's actually saying rent what you own and own what you rent. So my trajectory, short-term goals, be successful in real estate, still do the marketing thing. Long-term goal, 10 houses, a house every year. If I can have 10 houses paid off in a reasonable time, that means I could generate, say if the mortgage is $2,000 or the mortgage is $1,000 because you have equity in the house, you rent the house for $2,000. That means you get to keep $1,000 and the $1,000 pays off the house. So you're building equity. If you have 10 houses, you could be accumulating $10,000 a month. And I don't need a job. I guess I'll go back to psychology then.
Because you got to do something.
Right. So yeah, things that are on the back burner, probably
learn how to play tennis. How good are you at pickleball?
I've never played pickle.
If you're going to get to tennis,
Start with pickleball.
Start with pickleball.
Definitely start with pickleball.
Less sprinting, less strides, but you still learn the fundamentals.
Yeah. The first time I played, I was never into tennis, but 2001, Tennis 2K2 on my Dreamcast. Played that game and I was like, this is really fun. And then briefly I played Wii Sports and I was briefly curious about golf as well.
Dude, golf is where it's at, man. That's a sport I've slowly taken ownership of. And it is challenging.
But it has to be without the cart.
I do it with the cart right now, but
the only sports is walking from one place to another. If you remove that, then you're going to nothing. You're just getting vitamin D.
Because I'll tell you straight up, man, golf is one of those sports that will challenge you both mentally and physically. So it's almost like for me, at least when I go out there, I can go out there by myself and it'll be somewhat therapeutic because of the fact that no swing will be the same, no hit will be the same. And the whole time, all you're doing is trying to strive to have the same swing and the same hit. So I know that if I pick up this club, I know exactly where this ball is going to go and how far it's going to go when I hit it. But unfortunately for me, it never works out that way. So it can be very frustrating. But yeah, at the same time, it teaches me resilience. It teaches me to be like, hey, I can have 5 bad hits and then all of a sudden I have 2 good hits. And then I'm just like locked into there. And I'm like, yes, it's so rewarding. I put in that work. I paid attention to my stance. I'm out there,
That is so awesome. All I do is play mini golf with drunk people. They don't have any goals or any concerns.
Well, that's that. I mean, mini golf, you're meant to go out there and have some drinks and play. So I know what that's like. So aside from that, you have a very respectable and remarkable journey that most others probably don't know about. How does today's climate and I would say economics, I would even say administration, because that's kind of like what the viewers here kind of relate to as well. How is that ever, do you see that as affecting you? How do you battle that head on? Or deal with any of that? You hear the term immigration and immigrant thrown out there so wildly now in social media. Granted, I know you're not a member of MS-13, but as an aspiring, successful real estate and businessman, have you found any challenges along the way coming up? Or
man, that would be a whole separate podcast. We got to get together and just talk about that.
Okay, I understand that. But what if you just give us like a little summary?
Oh, I wouldn't even know where to begin with that, In my job, I think there is a sense of control. Like I have coworkers, I have clients. Generally, you have a vibe, but at the same time, you also have focus. What is relevant? Without getting into the macro differences, I have coworkers and I have clients and I have friends. Mm-hmm. They can have wildly converging views. They're not relevant to my job. As an investor, you could have a certain level of concern. I had this investor come in and he was wearing a MAGA cap. And I guess it's on me where I judged him a little bit. And here was my judgment. I messaged a white coworker and I was like, you need to sit with me on this one just so we can get the sales going.
Okay.
So my objective there was, how do I close a deal? Like in a professional setting, right? Like whichever ideological camp I'm in, how relevant is that towards the goal? At work, you have to be respectful. And with investors, you have to be profitable. I have to give them value and they have to, give me commission or whatever. You got to buy from me as a real estate agent. And as long as you can rely on somebody, if you need help, if I can't make it to a particular showing, or if I just finished year 1, so I'm like a year 2 realtor, if there's something that I am not trained on, I can rely on somebody that they would guide me with that knowledge. Now, the third thing, friends, that's where you get to be more specific. Like, do their values ideologically align with mine. But at the
Yes.
same time, you also want growth.
Yeah.
So are you going to stay in your vacuum? Are you going to stay in your bubble? Or are you going to push forward and try to be curious,
Yeah. Take those risks.
learn more, and not shut the book? One of my earlier marketing roles, I was working with someone, he was an immigrant, like myself, thick accent. He was not from South Asia, but he was an immigrant, and a minority immigrant at that. He was married, he was gay. So he's a minority and a minority.
Yeah.
And he's super Republican because he's a business owner
Yeah.
and he wants less taxes.
Oh,
It's about priorities and why do you want what you want? Does that make sense?
it does. It does make sense. Now, I only ask because you're very unique, especially in this field. Like you
Which
know,
field? I gave you three.
I'll only say the one that's right here, the
Like
real estate
real estate,
investor field, especially in the state of Texas. I am just curious, have you ever had to experience any kind of, or has there ever been any, because you referenced earlier, you had a client that was wearing a MAGA hat, which then kind of adjusted, like you kind of change, or you said you had to bring in somebody else or something?
Like
Okay.
that could be just the news and fear mongering. And I was like, I really need to hit my targets.
Oh, I see.
So I was like, could he theoretically be biased against me? This is me passing judgment, not the other way around. Because
Yeah.
I just see something and I'm like, because it doesn't go into my political views just by my accent. I don't know if my skin color is as pertinent as other people's, but I was like, just, could this be something that could be, so I kind of preempted it. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
I guess it's how you look at it. At least for me, I can tell you about me. I don't judge. One thing I've learned, and it was a process, it wasn't easy. For somebody to say that, it's more than just words. Because anybody can always say, oh, I'm not a judge or I don't judge. Okay, really? But if I told you this or I told you that or you saw this, well, then now you just judged. And because I've met people like that. I met people who would tell me, oh yeah, I don't judge either. But then all of a sudden they see something or they scroll in and they see something or something pops up on TV and all of a sudden they're just saying something. I'm like, well, I thought you said you don't judge. That was a judgmental statement there. Now for me, especially why sort of this whole Comfort and Chaos platform is because, and I've had people on here, and those of you know, I understand. If you don't believe me, scroll down, you'll see. I've had people who voted for this individual, people who voted for this individual, complete opposites. And I've had disagreements on episodes, but I've always let them know that, hey, I don't judge. What I do is I replace the word judge with understand. I want to understand, and that's why I look up to a current podcaster by the name of Bill Maher. So Bill Maher, those of you who don't know, but he's an avid, Democrat. He always is speaking up against Trump. But at the same time, this guy literally went to visit Trump to understand him. To me, that's huge because he's not just dwelling on his judgment. He's like, hey, let me go understand. So if I see somebody who disagrees with me, I'm always like, hey, let's have a conversation because either way, there's something to learn here. I'm not here to say, oh, I'm right and you're wrong. No, I actually want to understand why you believe what you believe or why you say what you say. And I feel like right now we live in a climate where people are just afraid to do that. And I don't know why. I mean, I can't say why they're afraid to do that, but there's a lacking of conversation, because it's now too easy for you to see a MAGA hat and then all of a sudden people like to make a judgment off that. They see I can put a rainbow flag outside of my house and then people in this neighborhood are going to think differently of me. Just the fact that I put a rainbow flag out there, it goes both ways, but it's like, hey, how about come have a conversation? Find out why I have that. Find out why. You don't have to agree with me, but how about just understand? And that's where I sit when it comes to that. And I'm just curious because I can understand, especially at your level and what you got to deal with on a day-to-day. And of course, your upbringing and where you're from and who you are. I can imagine it can't be very easy, especially in your business, here in a state of Texas, which is, you see a lot of Trump flags and everything like that. So I can imagine we're you have to make that decision and make that call of like, hey, someone else might want to come in here because I don't know how this guy's going to react to me, you know?
Yeah, that was just like a business move, if you will. It was just something to preempt so that we can facilitate rapport, move forward. As I've gotten older, my curiosity has kind of maybe diminished.
Okay. No. Curiosity towards what?
The whole media thing, right? In a lot of ways, it's pointless. The whole political choice, what's the point? Gabriel, if you were running for office, we need to have a conversation. We need to do away with the HOAs.
Yes.
Right? And we can talk about it. But when you're sitting with your people, what's the point? Let's talk about something that would improve our lives, which are actually relevant to us. Just like talking about issues when neither of you plan on doing about it, like the Israel-Palestine issue right now.
That's a big one.
If either one of us are going out to a protest on either side, and since I've known you for 3 years, let's talk about this, right? But if you don't have any intention of doing anything about it, how valuable is your opinion to the grand scheme of things?
I've said this multiple times on other episodes. Because I will tell you, as a man who's been through multiple campaigns and has a career, I swore an oath to defend the American people and the American way of life. Uphold and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Now, that being said, we take pride in the flag. That flag, it is everything to us. I have seen in other countries, people's demeanor changes when they see that flag coming through in the back of a truck or a convoy. They feel a sense of freedom, a sense of relief. I've witnessed that. There's people nowadays who don't know that feeling. I'll see these protests, especially for these Palestinian protests, and I'll see them burn these American flags. These are American citizens who live in this country who are burning American flags and waving these Palestinian flags. My thought process is...
You've seen domestically people burning American flag.
I did a few episodes on this. I would love to actually sit down with that person and have the conversation. I would say just what you said, because I understand if you have this belief or protesting here isn't going to do anything for that cause.
But the protest is action. You already hit the streets, so now you're active. Now, burning the flag, that's kind of egregious. So, and especially as a serviceman who's, first of all, even if you haven't taken an oath, you belong to this country, you can have issues with it. We have a democratic process, that you can do to get your view, like Obamacare or, whatever policy we have right now. The next time we meet, let's dive into it like full on.
Oh, we will, man.
Yeah,
we will.
But I want to have a conversation with and engage because they're actually doing something, right? I was talking about more like people who are just sitting at home and lounging. Posting is also an action, right? To an extent.
It is, but when you got to think about it, you're posting on the behest of a foreign country in another country. In our line of work, we always say, if you want to institute a cause or a reality for a cause, so if you have a belief and you're going to post about it, well, we always have a saying, the only way you can affect change is through selfless service. That is the only way you can affect change is through service. You can protest all you want. You can post all you want. And this is my thought towards those individuals, especially the one who's burning the flag. I'm like, you're not doing anything for those who are fighting over there in another country. So what's going to stop you from hopping on a plane and devoting your service to their cause? What are you doing here in the safeguard of a whole nother country, safeguarded, in a country where you can burn? Would it work the same way if they were to go to Palestine and burn a Palestinian flag at a protest? Can you go to Palestine and wave a bunch of American flags and have a protest in Palestine and then burn a Palestinian flag in the streets of Palestine? Do you think it would work out the same way as it worked out here? I wanted to know your thoughts.
Things are so dire over there. I don't think they even have a platform at the moment to do anything.
They don't, but they also have a very strict ideology. They have a passion for their country. The way I see it is they're in the fight. They're out there fighting. Same with Israel.
The difference is you have civilians and then you can have a military, which they do not. What they do have is
Hamas,
which is a small, less than 5%, maybe 10% or even 20%, right? Civilians don't have liberties. In Palestine right now, it's two
regions.
One is the Gaza Strip, which isn't even as big as San Antonio. And then you have the West Bank.
Guys, comment down below if you want us to do that next episode. And I'll have to bring in my co-host too, man, if you don't mind. He likes to get in these conversations as well. And he's very dear. Will, if you're listening, we need to get you in this.
Although, funny aside, what we're doing right now, isn't it the same as posting something on Facebook? That's where I see this podcast. I see it on Instagram.
So I would say it is, but what content are you getting? Are you getting conflict, strife, propaganda? Or are you getting conversation? You getting understanding? Are you getting, hey, I have a question. I would like to hear your response. Hey, here's my approach. I would love to hear your interaction on this. I would love to hear your interaction. I mean, there's so much I would like to dive into.
I could refer you to a Palestinian or an Israeli if you want. Maybe try bringing both of them together.
That'd be nice.
I think they could be a lot more open.
I would love that, actually. Yeah. We'll have to talk after this and see if we can
I don't have that many Israeli and Palestinians in network, but I do have a few friends.
Hey, I would love to engage because that is something that people need to understand. They also have to understand you have an upbringing, you have a story, you have a reason why you make the decisions you do now or why you appreciate certain things now that others probably would just be like, hey, yeah, why do you do that? And then they'll make a judgment. And you're just like, hey, dude, how about instead of, why not ask him why he does that? Let's get an understanding. Why does he do that? Oh, that makes sense. Someone can ask me, hey, G, why does it bother you so much when someone burns an American flag? And I'll be like, dude, I would love to tell you. Sit down here. Let me tell you why, or let me tell you why I think this, but let's have that conversation. Great knowledge can be gained through conversation than through judgment.
I do keep up with the conflict. I personally haven't seen either side burning the flag yet. Not saying it hasn't happened. The reason why a protest in the United States is significant is the question on the political spectrum, both sides, Democrat or Republican, why are we consistently funding it? Don't we have enough problems here in the US that funding could go towards? No party would disagree with that.
We just agreed. I said it too fast. I said we just agree. No, we just agreed there, man, because I'm the same way. Even now, in past episodes, me and Will talk, and I'll be like, dude, what's going on with this administration, man? There's just, I'm seeing it's like somebody I just wish I can sit down in a room and just ask him, what is your end state here?
But what's really important, before you worry about what's happening on the national stage, know who your councilman is. If you want to act informed and curious, know who your councilman is, know who your mayor is, know who your governor is.
Your local.
And know what your role is. I have a friend, he's running for office right now. I keep up with his Facebook page.
What office is he running for?
Oh, he's a councilman.
Councilman?
Yeah, he's running for a district at Saqib Sheikh in San Antonio. Somebody comments that, hey, I think he was talking about sidewalks. Okay, he's like, I need sidewalks south of Alamo Dome. And he was like, I agree. He posted a video where he listed out XYZ that he wants to do for the city. I think it was a video on parks. We need to improve the infrastructure of trails and parks, make them better. Somebody's like, F the park, give me sidewalks. He's like, yeah, both are important issues. And the guy's like, I strongly disagree. And I'm like, FYI, south of Alamo Dome is District 10. It is really important that you inform the mayor. I support you 100%. I'm not saying one is more important than the other. I'm just saying we need functional sidewalks. And if south of the Alamo Dome sidewalks are not good, how about you go to the relevant council person and the mayor? You don't even know which district you live in. You're commenting on a district 8 councilman for downtown.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest fucked up thing.
I agree.
I can curse, right? The news never emphasizes, I listen to NPR every day, devote so much time on Donald Trump or...
That's your first mistake right there, man.
NPR.
Even NPR. Do you know who funds NPR? Do you know where they get their funding? Like,
Do fundraisers on the channel like every
No,
day I'm
it's
hearing
a-
ad. Would you like to sell your used car?
no, NPR is a government-funded program.
Institutionally, you have freedom of the press, right? And they
Yeah,
give you a hell of a lot. But what's left, man? You can't trust CNN. You
No,
can't trust Fox News.
You can't.
So
That's just it.
You take
you
NPR,
can
man.
only trust-
Let NPR survive, please. It does not belong to your
Okay.
side. Don't take NPR
I
away
know.
from me.
I won't ruin it for you. Listen to NPR. But I will tell you this. Look, I'm going to tell you this right now, man. When you listen to NPR, I would tell you, just like I tell everyone else, I would encourage you, if there's something that really hits you, do your own research on that topic first.
I will do my own research as soon
Like-
as I start running for office. But right now, I just listen to NPR so that on my drive work from to work or from work, just to be informed and not have
No,
the CNN or Fox bias.
exactly. And that's why I do, like, even myself, I still watch the news. I watch all the different news, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News,
Comedy Central.
Comedy Central, The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. I watch all that stuff. And the reason why is because there's still a common line of information that you can still gain, but I watch it from a different perspective. I don't watch it from like, hey, let me take this and I'm going to run with this and I'm going to believe everything you're telling me. No, I'm going to watch this because, hey, you just identified an issue. I want to dive into this and see what this is because this appeals to me. Other stuff, that doesn't appeal to me. I'll be like, no, that's not for me. No, not for me, not for me. No. Okay, that one, that's something I need to look into because about 4 years from now, that's going to affect my son. I want to look into that. Let me see what they're saying here. Now I'm going to do my own research and see what's up. Depending on who's presenting it, you're going to get a different story. We live in what I call it bumper sticker media time. Every news agency, and this is why the media is depleting in ratings. Now podcast media is growing in ratings and numbers and viewership, and CNN and Fox News are going down because you know what you're going to get when you watch Fox News, and you know what you're going to get when you watch CNN. You're not going to get the full story. You're going to get their side of the story, how they want you to believe. When you watch Fox News,
If you can think critically, a lot of people consume news
Exactly.
passively. If you just think
People-
about it, right?
you are a rare breed. If you're a critical thinker nowadays,
Like, why is somebody doing what? Like Donald Trump, right? We hear shit about tariffs. We are
That's-
constantly bombarded. Tariffs are bad. Can we talk about what the tariffs are being used for?
yeah,
Okay, I get it. You don't like tariffs. The tariffs are bad. It's going to make things
But
worse for the
that's-
consumer.
that's the bumper sticker right there.
So,
you know.
tell me on either side, where are the tariffs going to go? If you collected that 10% money, what
That's-
are you going to do with it?
Exactly.
Is it going to go in Trump's pocket? Is
Yo.
it going to create a subsidy for, like, if you're putting 25% tariffs on cars, our local car manufacturer is going to get 25% subsidy?
So
Why have nobody asked that question?
it's
Sorry, I'm
funny.
yelling.
No. Hey, I can see the passion. I can't wait because I'm going to bring you back. We're going to do some multiple episodes. I'm going to have you as a
both
special.
sides. One saying tariffs are good, one saying tariffs are bad. Tell me what
So-
you're going to do with it.
So the main thing is like the same thing I said when I had that same thought process because when they launched the whole Doge thing and they're identifying all this wasted money and all this stuff, I was like, okay, my question is, what are you going to do with all this money? You identified all this wasted money. You identified all these tariffs you're going to implement. Now, my question is, and I'd be like, hey, Mr. Trump, sir, Mr. President, sir, I just want one question. What is your end state? That means, what is the end state that you're after here? Because right now, it feels like all your decisions are reactionary. I want to know, are you proactively making these decisions? Because if you're proactively making a decision, that means there's a desired end state. And what is that end state? Because the American people need to know that end state. Because right now, if everything's reactionary, you're seeing this, you're reacting. You're making a decision because you're reacting to this decision. You're reacting. Well, as a leader in the United States military, we are trained throughout all the government. He is a commander in chief. We want to make sure that when you make a call, if I'm going to send a soldier to do this mission, I know what end state he's going to go after. And I want to make sure he understands that end state before he even goes. And he's trained for it. He's prepared for it. He's planned. And he's going to go execute to meet that end state. And he's going to tell me along the way if there's any trouble or any challenges he's going to face or obstacles to meet that end state. But if I just tell him to go do this, go do this, go do this, he's going to eventually ask, Why am I here? What am I doing? Hey, you want me to go do this next? And you want me to do this? Okay, I did that. Now what? Now what? Now what? No, it doesn't work. A good leader will always give you the end state because that's how it gives you the why. And right now, that's what's lacking, I would say.
And that is also good journalism. If you're focusing on Doge, okay, yeah, we are trimming the expense by 25%. Before you trim it, how, why, when, where, what?
Yes, exactly.
Who's going to do that job?
What's the why, right?
Yeah.
I agree, man. I agree,
and the news
dude.
doesn't inform us on that because they just want like flashy
No.
clickbait
Bumper stickers.
Yeah, like, and I just feel like their emotion has gotten way too high.
Oh, dude, fist bump. Fist bump.
Give me data. Make it boring.
Welcome to the Comfort and Chaos team. That's exactly it. Right now, we are in a time of emotion. Everyone's so emotional. And the media knows this, so they're going to give you everything to trigger your emotions. Hey, that's what a bumper sticker does. You're driving on the road and you read a bumper sticker of a car that passes you, you're just like, wait, what? Then you want to drive ahead and see who's driving that car. You're like, okay, now that makes sense, because it triggers you. You read a bumper sticker and you're just like, oh, what? Honk if you blah, blah, blah. Wait, what? I ain't honking. It triggers you. So the media knows that. We're a very emotional society right now, not logically based. We're emotionally based. So, hey, let me post this. And then your algorithm knows that. So it's just going to set you triggered. So you're just going to keep scrolling. What's going to trigger your emotions? Crazy times, dude. We live in some crazy times.
I think our news is pretty similar. So I didn't watch a lot of American news growing up. But as I started to grow more aware, right, I started watching Pakistani news. They would fight on the air, like they're like talking over each other, and the moderator just sitting with a thumb up her ass or his ass, And I was like, what the hell is this? And I thought news has to be better in America. I bet those people are more civilized.
How wrong were you?
I actually saw that in like 30 Rock. I would watch that show and
30 Rock?
There was this episode where Tracy Jordan goes on a political show just so he could yell.
You should have stayed with The Office.
I never got into The Office.
What?
Not my type of humor.
Dude, that should have been part of your citizenship test.
You know what should have been part of my, like, if
How hard was that citizenship test, by the way?
And generally have a phobia of tests, but it was pretty easy. It's just 100 questions of basic American history, like
nice.
Who's your councilman, who's your president, who's your vice president, what year did we get our freedom from the British Empire, 1776, how many colonies were there? So I just got like a CD.
You know more than the average high schooler.
Yeah, there was actually a news coverage about that before I immigrated here. I just got a CD, put it in my car. The voice, I just heard the 100 questions on loop. But a lot of things I already knew, like who's the Speaker of the House back then when I got my immigration was Paul Ryan, 2014, 2016. Yeah,
wow.
I think that was in the Trump era. So Paul Ryan got elected in 2016 to 2020. Right?
Yeah, I think so.
So the president was Trump. I've forgotten the vice president's name. I was so close. I was going to call him Mike Vance. If any foreigner is watching this and you want to know what America is like, I highly recommend the TV show My Name is Earl. It taught me more about America than any other thing on TV.
My Name is Earl.
That is so accurate about the average American man. Friends is not going to show you that.
Oh, yeah.
How I Met Your Mother or whichever.
No. What about The Office?
No. My Name is Earl, the most authentic American experience.
You're interested in coming to America? You want to learn about America or the American man? Watch My Name is Earl.
Do you disagree?
I've never really seen an episode.
You've never seen it?
I know.
When you edit this, you got to slice in some clips of that show.
All right. Hey, we'll tell the production team. There's a whole production team. So he's going to tell them, hey, make sure you guys edit that. All right. Edit that.
That's going to be awesome.
I don't want to waste too much of your time. Seems like we've been going for a good time here. Get used to this face because you're going to see him here more often. This was just kind of his introductory. Now we can get into the nick of the weeds. I can bring him on once we address certain topics. I can bring on, you guys know I like to bring on co-hosts, and kind of chime in and give us their perspectives towards a certain topic or even current events. Sometimes we like to do a scrub of current events and what's going on around the world. It's always good to get a different perspective on thought process as we try to find common sense analysis in this uncommon world of chaos. That's what we're about here. But BF, man, I got to just say thank you so much. We appreciate you coming on here and part of the Comfort and Chaos team. And we look forward to seeing you some again. It's always tradition. Before I leave here, I always like to give my guests some words of encouragement to the team before we sign off. The stage is yours, my friend.
Since we spent the last half discussing news and current events, one thing I learned when I started watching the news that was completely irrelevant to me. If you want somebody to care about you, start caring about things that don't concern you.
Ooh. Start caring about things that don't concern you. Okay. Well, there you guys go. You got the words of encouragement from our guest here today, BFZ. I'll put his link to his social media down in the description. If you want, slide into his DMs, message him on anything about real estate, property, investment. He's the one to hit up, all right? Or even what's the best rating for a 7-Eleven? He will tell you on the scale of 1 to 10 how to rate your 7-Eleven. Hey, thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, hit that like button, hit the subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode, team. Out.